Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist David Percy. Up first, on the hazardous weather graphics, there are no watches, warnings, or advisories out for southern Alaska, the Panhandle, Kodiak Island, Alaska Peninsula, or for the interior to the Arctic coast, and looking good out west. No big storms in the forecast to affect the Bering Sea or the Aleutians. So moving on to satellite imagery, you can see a band of moisture extending from south central Alaska southeastward there across the western Gulf of Alaska and then on down to the bottom of the picture. That's on the associated with low pressure that's spinning just south of Kodiak Island, keeping it kind of cloudy and wet there, and then the heaviest rainfall occurring along that frontal boundary there, bringing a fair amount of precipitation into south central Alaska. Can also see quite a bit of sunshine, again breaking out, some partial clearing over the Panhandle. Copper River Basin mostly clear right up into the Tanana Valley with pretty mild temperatures today on up through the eastern interior, rebounding back into the lower to mid 70s by mid-afternoon. Many areas there over the eastern part of the state, north of the Alaska Range. Otherwise, we've got clouds out to the west, clouds covering just about all of the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, with some warm front type moisture coming in, bringing low clouds, fog, rain, and drizzle in across the western to the central Aleutian areas, and then clouds keeping it unsettled along the southwest coast back up towards St. Lawrence Island into the Chukchi Sea. And the frontal boundary associated with that band of clouds bringing some light rain onto the western Arctic coast, along with some gusty winds today as well. Winds gusting ahead of that front up to as high as 50 miles an hour at Cape Lisburne, and anywhere from 25 to 35 mile an hour gusts from Point Lay up to Wainwright, with areas of light rain, mostly less than a quarter of an inch in most areas there. Some areas 5 to 15 hundredths of an inch with that front. Falling during the day today. Heavier rainfall amounts down to the south with the system of the front across the Barren Islands there, pushing up toward the southern Kenai Peninsula. Let's see, Kenai had a little over 1/10 of an inch of precipitation, while Seward picked up 1/2 inch of rainfall. And then Anchorage at the state airport, at the international airport, Ted Stevens International Airport, had a 1/4 of an inch of rain. Otherwise, it became just some scattered showers and mostly cloudy skies into the Madanuska-Susitna Valley. Then the sun breaks out as you get up toward Denali Park and from about the Igloo, and you get into the sunshine with temperatures this afternoon reaching 75 degrees at Fairbanks, Delta Junction, Northway, and Eagle, all hitting 75 at mid-afternoon today, 73 at Nenana, with pretty nice conditions all the way up to the eastern Arctic coast with sunshine. Then that trough out over the Bering Sea, spreading some light rain and fog in toward the Pribilof Islands. That'll push in this evening, and that keeping it unsettled over the central and eastern Aleutian areas, and then the warm front with the next batch of moisture out toward the western Aleutians. And it's variably cloudy along the Panhandle, some clearing and isolated showers. Not too bad of a day there. Should be about the same tonight, maybe a chance of light rain, fog, and drizzle along the central coast late tonight as that front edges eastward. Otherwise, periods of rain, heaviest on the southern Kenai Peninsula and western Prince William Sound, in toward Passage Canal, Whittier to Portage. Probably see the heaviest rainfall to Seward, and it looks wet overall at Cook Inlet, and then it starts breaking up into the Madanuska and Susitna Valley, just some scattered showers, a little more widespread area shower activity there in the Kuskokwim Valley down to Togiak Bay and then back into the Alaska Peninsula, that wraparound moisture. It stays cloudy and damp over Kodiak Island, but winds will be light just about everywhere around the state today. A little brisk there along the northwest coast yet, but nothing strong, lighter than what you saw today ahead of the front. Behind the front, winds will drop off considerably, and that'll also push some rain over toward the eastern Arctic coast, rain, fog, and drizzle. And for Saturday, that system continues to affect the central Aleutians with rain, fog, and drizzle there. Wind's not a factor at all. Then it dries out, maybe start seeing some clearing towards Shimmy and Attu. But generally, Bering Sea will be covered in clouds, maybe some drizzle right along the southwest coast. And again, along the Alaska Peninsula as well, scattered showers possible, isolated to scattered, widely scattered showers for the Fox Islands. More numerous showers, though, for Kodiak Island with that low center pulling up toward King Salmon. So periods of rain and showers for Bristol Bay into the southern, at least, the Kuskokwim Valley, call it east of the Kuskokwim Mountains there, and periods of rain across all of south central Alaska for the day Saturday with cloudy skies, periods of rain for the North Gulf Coast, and a little bit better chance of shower activity now over the Panhandle with chance of rain in the north. But winds will be light and still some sunshine. Temperatures could reach into the lower to mid 70s again over the eastern interior there, but looks a little cooler. Maybe a risk of a thunderstorm around the Fairbanks area, and just a chance of lingering showers now up along the eastern Arctic coast with some light rain persisting over the western Brooks Range and DeLong Mountains. And then for the day on Sunday, a little bit better chance of some scattered thunderstorm activity up over the eastern interior, kind of taking that summer look again along the Yukon River to the southern slopes of the eastern Brooks Range, and then on down toward Northway and Tok. Anywhere in there could see some, any of the taller clouds could develop into some thunderstorm activity or showers. Otherwise, areas of rain over the central part of the state, all the way up to the North Slope and Arctic coast, looks cloudy and wet. Cloudy skies and maybe some drizzle, light rain, fog, mainly along the coast there from Bering Strait down along the Yukon Delta coast into the north side of Nunivak Island, that area east of the Pribilofs now. So cloudy skies, low clouds and fog covering the Bering Sea under that high pressure center just north of Amchitka Island. And low pressure still weakening, but still in place there, keeping it wet over Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay. Areas of rain and fog with drizzle, the fog and drizzle along the coast, areas of rain and showers, Copper River Basin, south central Alaska, and on down across the southeast coast, a weak low, 1,009 millibar low, moving up toward the south coast there. So that'll increase the chances of rain and make for a cloudy, kind of damp, unsettled day across all the southeast coast. And then out west, the next not too impressive front starts to spread the next round of moisture into Shimmy and Attu. That'll be late in the day and more likely over Sunday evening and night. Otherwise, lows tonight in the 30s to lower 40s for the Arctic coast and North Slope. Otherwise, in the 40s to 50s. Over the remainder of the state, mostly in the lower to mid 50s for southern Alaska, upper 40s for the Alaska Peninsula, near 50 over the western Aleutians, lower 50s Kodiak Island, mid to upper 50s for the Panhandle, mid 50s in the Fairbanks area. Highs tomorrow, mid to upper 70s again from the central Tanana Valley around Fairbanks up to Fort Yukon, Beaver, Chalk-Yitzhak, pushing 80 there at Eagle, 79 the forecast high, and 75 down toward Northway and Tok. Copper River Basin, some areas trying to push up towards 70 degrees, call it upper 60s, 60 to 65 for the Susitna Valley, and 55 to 60 for the Kenai Peninsula. Highs in the 60s for the southeast coast, upper 50s for Kodiak Island, and mid 50s there for the Alaska Peninsula. Mid 40s St. Lawrence Island with lower 40s there from Tin City, Teller up to Cape Lisburne and Point Hope, and then near 40 on the central Arctic coast and near 50 over toward Barter Island. Bristol Bay highs in the upper 50s to lower 60s, upper 50s Kodiak Island, and mid 50s for the Alaska Peninsula, and in the 50s for the Aleutians. And for the lows Sunday morning, a little cooler up on the North Slope, trying to start to head back down toward that frost point on the Arctic coast anyway, maybe the North Slope, definitely in the mid 30s there to upper 30s to upper 40s there in the Brooks Range. South of the mountains, though, staying in the 40s, some areas lower 50s, mid 50s in the mid and upper Tanana Valley, and then back down toward 49 from Northway down to Tok. Near 50 in the Copper River Basin, 50 to 55 south central Alaska, and in the 50s, mid to upper 50s for the Panhandle, Bristol Bay lower 50s, Kodiak Island lower 50s, upper 40s for the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. St. Paul should have a low of 45 and upper 40s for the central Aleutians to near 50 out toward Shemya, but Gambell and Savunga down to 38 degrees. And the highs on Sunday afternoon, up around mid-70s, call it. A little bit cooler up over the eastern interior, more clouds, a little more in the way of shower or thunderstorm activity, but still pushing 70 in Fairbanks, near 70 down toward Delta Junction, Northway, and Tok, those areas. Mid-60s in the Copper River Basin, and upper 50s to lower 60s for the Panhandle, maybe a little warmer down south, near 60 Kodiak Island, lower 60s in the Kenai Peninsula, otherwise 50s out over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather, we've got band of IFR from the central Arctic coast southwestward to the northwest coast, and then southward through the Bering Strait and the western Seward Peninsula into St. Lawrence Island all the way down to the Pribilofs, and then it cuts off to the southeast there to Port Hayden, and then for farther to the west from Atka Island westward in the Aleutians, IFR, Iliamna Lake, Togiak Bay, and southern Kuskokwim Valley there, into southern Cook Inlet, Kodiak Island, southern Kenai Peninsula, and Prince William Sound, IFR. Marginal VFR over a good portion of the southwest interior, and VFR over the eastern interior, as well as the Panhandle, including the eastern Arctic coast. And then for the afternoon, we've got some IFR, eastern Arctic coast now, and that band kind of breaks up over the north slope, just marginal VFR there, but from the western Brooks Range down to the Seward Peninsula, right across Selawik and Kotzebue and Buckland, IFR. Excuse me, and IFR for the Pribilofs, and another batch there for the western Aleutians, and then IFR across much of the southwest interior into a good portion of the Kuskokwim Valley, and then even up along the western Alaska Range, southern Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, IFR, Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, to east of Yakutat, now the Panhandle, marginal VFR, northern Copper River Basin, up into the mid and upper Tanana Valley, and the Koyukuk, upper Yukon valleys, good VFR, as well as the western Arctic coast. And for the morning time frame, Sunday morning time frame, IFR, North Slope Arctic coast, and quite an area of marginal VFR into the central interior, extending back to the west to the coastline and to St. Lawrence Island, and IFR for the Pribilofs eastward to the Bering Sea, well, just about all the Alaska Peninsula into Bristol Bay, and then marginal VFR Kodiak Island, southern Cook Inlet, as well as the central and eastern Aleutians, and good IFR right up into Prince William Sound again, and Resurrection Bay into eastern Turnagain Arm, extending down along the southeast coast, marginal VFR over the inside waters, and then VFR holding over the eastern interior there, the Copper River Basin, and also Cook Inlet, Susitna Valley, maybe even the Madnuska Valley. And then for the afternoon, possible convection showing up over the eastern interior there with sunshine and VFR flying conditions. Otherwise, IFR for the North Slope and Arctic coast, IFR for the Gulf of Alaska and North Gulf coast, as well as the Panhandle. Not too bad out over the eastern Bering Sea or the northern Bering Sea, some areas of VFR showing up, but IFR from Chitka Island westward to Shimianatu, Passes, Anatuvik, and Adigan both look marginal tomorrow. Saturday looks to be IFR flying for Lake Clark and Merrill, and IFR in the eastern entrance for rainy, windy. Marginal VFR, lowest conditions would be on the southern entrance, better to the north. Isabel, optimistically, go VFR the entire day Saturday. Mentasta, same thing, VFR. Tanita, possible IFR in the eastern entrance, otherwise kind of a marginal VFR day. Portage, IFR, Chilkoot and White, marginal. Looking at the freezing levels, some colder air now coming southeastward with a frontal boundary, but holding up over the Chukchi Sea, 2,000 to 6,000 feet there. Otherwise, interior Alaska out along the west coast, 8,000 feet, 12,000 feet over the Yukon, and 12 to 14,000 feet over the Aleutians. Icing, areas of considerable moderate rime icing with all that moisture coming into Kodiak Island and around Iliamna Lake in south central Alaska. Another band up there from the northern Bering Sea to the eastern Arctic coast, light to isolated moderate. And then that same pattern, but pretty high up there with the high freezing levels. Icing really not much of a problem for the Aleutians. And for the jet stream, northerly 70 knots, St. Lawrence Island to the Pribilofs, and northwest 100 knots there right across Atka Island, and then southerlies over the central and eastern interior, 9,000 feet, south 50 knots into the Copper River Basin, north 25, eastern Bering Sea, and at 9,000 feet, or I'm sorry, 3,000 feet, southerlies 30 knots, a narrow band there for the North Gulf Coast, and 25 to 35 knot northerlies, St. Lawrence Island, strongest through the Bering Strait to the northwest coast. And then 25 knots out of the northeast coming into the eastern Aleutians. Turbulence-wise, look for light to isolated and moderate chop for the Fox Islands, and possibly for the North Gulf Coast into Prince William Sound. Better chance, though, St. Lawrence Island to the northwest coast.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snyder, and joining me again is Cindy Preller. She's the Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska Region's National Weather Service. Thanks again for joining us, Cindy.
Thanks for having me back, Dave.
Sure thing. And I love saying Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska's National Weather Service because that's not weather. Why is the Tsunami Program part of the National Weather Service?
Well, it's because the Weather Service absolutely rocks at warning people for every kind of, devastating natural hazard.
Mm-hmm. The mission of the Weather Service is to protect life and property. And so how does the Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, Alaska, which is a very unique office, again, within the Weather Service, it's not weather, how do those folks help us protect life and property?
The National Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer is a national warning center, and we analyze seismic traces 24/7 all around the world. So when there's an earthquake anywhere on the planet, we see it and analyze it within minutes.
Within minutes, and
Within
there's
minutes.
actually a goal to have it under, was it 5 minutes?
If there is a tsunami warning to be issued for continental America, yeah, we must get that out, or shoot to get that out in 5 minutes.
Okay. Now that's not something I have ever learned to do, so I know it would be a struggle for me to do that under probably hours, but it is fascinating to watch, and the office is open on a regular basis for tours, right?
Absolutely, come by Friday.
Okay.
Yep, every
Fridays.
Friday at 1, 2, and 3 p.m. They're open public free tours. And it's the most interesting place on the planet. You really should check it out.
Okay, and the office team is made up of people that are earth scientists, not meteorologists or atmospheric scientists. Talk about some of the types of people that work there.
Right, we are out of place in our National Weather Service, but we are geologists, geophysicists, oceanographers. We even have an astrophysicist on board, computer software architects, electronic technicians that are brilliant and innovative. Our software is all written in-house. Our instrumentation is designed in-house. So it's a really, really unique place, and it's just a couple handfuls of people that work there. So
sure.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ways to get a tsunami alert message is on Twitter.
Right.
And I can follow the Twitter address, and we'll put that up on the screen for you there. But it's usually a very quick message that tells you initially what the magnitude of an earthquake could be and about where its epicenter was. What are some of the other ways that you can get that alert message?
Well, Twitter's my favorite too.
Yeah.
And you don't even need a Twitter account to receive
Right.
it. So
That's
it just comes in like an SMS message. But you can also receive it via email, weather radio, of course, the crawler on your television screen, on the internet, Google Alerts,
Right.
marine radio if you're out in harbors and boats. Actually, marine radio is probably,
Yeah, it is a good one.
that's our partnership with the Coast Guard. We're really grateful for that, absolutely. But there's a variety of ways in dissemination.
Okay.
And locally, excuse me, I'm sorry, but
Sure.
locally in the communities, the sirens will go off as well.
Right. So lots of different ways to get that very important message very quickly when that matters to you. One of the ways that the Warning Center practices with communities is a test on a yearly basis, right?
Right.
How does that work?
Thanks for bringing that up. It's a controversial issue, but it's super important to help us warn better and really serve Alaskans. So the week of March 27th, the commemoration of the 1964 event, for that week we have a Tsunami Preparedness Week every year. We like communities to get out and do drills and practice and do everything we can to raise awareness. And part of that is a live code test where we actually issue the warning message live and we activate the emergency alert system, which means sirens go off, the TV crawler happens, and it's a test.
We're
and
doing everything that would normally happen without the real threat of the tsunami, just to
Right.
practice as much as possible.
Right, and this is a major partnership with the State of Alaska, Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, the Emergency Operations Center,
Right.
and the Alaska Broadcasters Association. Without the media, we wouldn't be able to do this. So the three groups really work tightly together to do our best to warn, educate the public that this is happening, so they don't wonder and get scared about it. It has been remarkable what we've learned. I mean, it pretty much breaks somewhere every time, but then we fix it, and it gets better. So a quick example is just a few years ago, we used to, when we issued a message, it would activate the entire state.
Right.
Right? I mean, Kotzebue, Nome, Bethel, everybody would be in tsunami warning. And so now we can regionalize it to where the actual event is taking place.
Right.
That's pretty huge.
Right, right. So identifying points of failure and also points of success, and making sure we continue down that successful path so that folks are warned as quickly and accurately as possible.
Absolutely. And, you know, to get our communities involved to prep themselves, prep their businesses, prep their tourism, prep their schools, you know, just make this an annual thing they need to be doing.
Right. So as citizens wanting to be prepared, we should be prepared to learn more about that test that's happening usually toward the end of March every year.
Right, and you should be happy that it's happening.
Right.
Instead of upset. Definitely be happy that it's happening.
Right. Just as we test tornado sirens in tornado country, we also have to test the tsunami program as well.
Right, because there isn't enough time. You know, for a local tsunami, the wave will arrive in less than 2 minutes. So it's super important that people know what to do.
Very good. Well, Cindy, thank you so much for helping us know more about the Tsunami Ready program and the test. And the Tsunami Warning Center is a very unique and very important job in the National Weather Service that is just fascinating to me every time I visit the office. So
It's the only one for the continent. You really should come check it out.
it's an international effort.
Yes.
Wonderful stuff. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Dave.
And thanks for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snyder. We'll see you next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at the coastal water forecast out along the coast for the south coast. Southerly winds 15 to 20 knots for the day Saturday with 5 to 6 foot seas. Up on the north coast, south to southeast winds at 20 knots. Lynn Canal looking at a southeast wind for Saturday at 10 knots with 3 foot seas. Stevens Passage southeast at 15. And for Clarence Strait, southeast winds 20 knots. And for the day Sunday, southeast 20 knots for Clarence Strait and Stevens Passage, seas running 4 to 5 feet. And for Lynn Canal, northern inner channels, winds will be south at 20 knots with seas at 4 feet. Otherwise, small craft advisories now along the central and along the entire coast. On the south and central coast, they'll be southerly at 25 knots, seas 9 feet, and southeast 25 knots for the north coast with seas at 8 feet. Prince William Sound for Saturday, southeast winds 20 knots, seas 3 feet. Southeast 15 to 20 knot winds forecast for Saturday for the North Gulf Coast with 5 foot seas. Southeast 20 knot winds for the Barren Islands and northeast winds at 15 knots for Kamishak Bay. Cook Inlet mostly east to north winds at 10 knots. And for the day Sunday, Cook Inlet, basically south to southwest winds at 10 knots, pretty light, seas 3 feet, light variable winds for Kamishak Bay, and 10 to 15 knot winds from the southeast for the North Gulf Coast, southeast of 15 for the Barren Islands and Prince William Sound, looking at east winds at 10 knots. Kodiak Island, southwest winds 15 knots. To the west there, the Alaska Peninsula, west-northwest winds 15 to 20 knots, seas at about 4 feet. In Bristol Bay, looking at northeast winds at 20 knots with 4 foot seas. And for Sunday, Bristol Bay, west winds 20 knots, seas 4 feet. And for the Alaska Peninsula, north to northwest winds at 20 knots, seas around 6 feet. Kodiak Island, variable to west winds 15 knots, 10 to 15 knots with 4 foot seas. And for the eastern Aleutians, Saturday, northwest winds 15 to 20 knots, seas right around 5 feet. Central Aleutians, westerlies at 15. And then for Amchitka Island, small craft advisory, southwest winds 25 knots. And from Kiska to Shimia, winds will be west at 20. And for Sunday, western Aleutians, Southeast winds 20 knots, seas 5 feet. Central Aleutians, variable to north winds at 10 to 15 knots, seas 2 to 5 feet. And for the Fox Islands, north to northwest winds 15 to 25 knots with 3 to 6 foot seas. For the southwest coast, variable to north winds 20 knots for the day Saturday, seas 3 to 4 feet. The Pribilofs, northerlies at 15 knots, same forecast for St. Matthew Island. Small craft advisories for St. Lawrence Island, north winds 25 knots with 8 foot seas. In Norton Sound, winds will be west at 15. And for Sunday, Norton Sound, northwest winds 20 knots. And small craft advisories for St. Lawrence Island and the Yukon Delta coastline for northwest winds at 25 knots, seas running 6 to 7 feet in those zones. And for the Kuskokwim Delta coast, south of Nunivak Island, look for northwest winds at 20 knots and 15 knots from the north to the Pribilofs. For the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coastlines tomorrow, north winds at 10 knots, pretty light, seas 2 to 3 feet. Western Arctic coast, north at 15. And then from Cape Thompson to Wales, north winds 20 to 25 knots, seas as high as 8 feet. And for the day Sunday, small craft advisories from Wales to Cape Thompson, north winds 25 knots, north 20 knot winds from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, turn northeast for the remainder of the Arctic coast, even the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, all looking at northeast winds at 20 knots, seas at about 4 feet for Sunday. And for tonight, a front will push some rain into the eastern Arctic coast, and it'll trail back to the west-southwest across central western North Slope to the western Brooks Range into Kivalina, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, down to Kotzebue. Even a chance of rain for Selawik and the Seward Peninsula to St. Lawrence Island. Warm frontal system spreads rain into the central Aleutians, extending back to Shimei and Attu, and a trough keeps it unsettled over the Fox Islands, Alaska Peninsula. Look for periods of rain, heaviest there, southern Kenai Peninsula into western Prince William Sound, as rain starts to increase along the central North Gulf Coast, mostly staying along the coastline, just a chance of some moisture late tonight for the Panhandle. And then for tomorrow, a better chance of some showers or light rain for the southeast coast, periods of rain for the North Gulf Coast, south central Alaska, cloudier and a little cooler, but still some sunshine over the eastern interior, scattered isolated thunderstorms for the eastern interior on Sunday.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.